So what is up mga friendship? So you are wondering ba't ako nakapag-blanket ngayon? Kasi tayo ay magtitingin ng horror film. So get your blankets mga ka-friendship. Kasi ito yung ating protection ngayon kasi it's 12:35 na. Kaya tayo mga friendship, titingin tayo ng horror film. So, ayun na nga. This is from 1C Studio and I have inspired doing this because DangMattSmith. So, ayun na nga. He was wearing blankets and holding up, toys. So, tara na mga friendship. Mag-react na tayo ng mga video friendship.
I was around 10 years old when this happened. Me and my two best friends and our parents were on a long vacation in Turkey in a very good and safe hotel. One night, me and my two best friends, who I'll call Tim and Phil for this video, were staying at Tim's room in the hotel while our parents were in the hotel restaurant. The room wasn't bad, actually all of our rooms seemed safe, at least we thought it was. We were having a lot of fun watching Simpsons and playing Monopoly, but what happened that night still makes me have chills. So it was around 1 a.m. and our parents were late. Phil looked at them through the window and said, "They're still in that stupid restaurant."
Chinese.
Yeah, they told us they'll come back until 11 p.m. I answered. Guys? Someone is knocking on the door, Tim said.
Sino yan?
It's probably just room service.
But he has a Chinese
said.
friend.
Can we not open the door?
Hindi nag-uusap.
I said. I was pretty scared in that situation. I was only 10 and my friends were only 2 and 3 years older than me. So we were all pretty much defenseless children in the room.
Sorry, interruption.
Tim, who was the oldest, answered, "Oh, come on, it's just room service."
So nasa hotel
The guy on the other side of the door said, "Hello. Can you please open the door?" When he said that, we were all scared. In a couple of minutes of silence, he said in a louder voice, "Open the goddamn door!"
Bro, no.
I started crying because I knew he was in room service, because if he was, he would have talked in Turkish. I was in shock as in that moment I realized that this strange guy was in a fake ID card to open the door. Tim grabbed both of us and we ran to the bathroom and locked the door.
Good.
Luckily, the guy wasn't fast to get us. He was screaming to open the door. I said, "Look, a phone!" Luckily, Tim's mom left her phone so we could call her if we needed anything. So Phil grabbed the phone and called his dad and told them the situation. And they came up to find the guy nowhere. They thought we were lying to them until the hotel manager showed them the footage.
Yes.
We found out that the man was stalking us and a couple other children. In a couple of days, police had finally caught him. He was a serial rapist and a pedophile.
Oh my God.
We were just lucky he wasn't fast to get us. I will never forget that night, as that was the worst day of my life.
That's why mga ka-friendship, wag na kayong mag-aalis na kayo lang ng basta-basta, lalo na ang mga surroundings nyo, di natin alam kapag may rapist pa talaga or may tumitingin na sa atin na kakaiba. So mga friendship, always look around you kung sino may mga kakasama nyo para alam nyo naman kung sino mga kasama nyo. Diyos ko naman mga friendship, baka anong mangyari sa inyo. Always dapat kayo may kasama ha. Tapos lagi nyong i-check kung nakaka-on ba yung mga CCTV dyan. So, kaya niyan mga friendship. Kaya, let us be brave. Kaya, let's go. Tingnan naman what's the next film. True missing brothers scary animated story. True creepy attempted kidnapping.
When I was 15, my mother went out shopping and left me in charge of the house. It was starting to get dark and I realized my little brother was nowhere to be found. I asked my sister if she knew where he was, and she said he had gone to the park around the corner to kick his soccer ball around.
What?
I told her to watch the house while I was gone and ran off to the direction of the park.
Alone?
When I got there, I was surprised to find the park completely empty. I called out my brother's name, but there was no answer. I started to get worried, and all of a sudden I heard a faint muffled noise coming from my left. I turned just in time to see a tall figure disappearing behind a large fence. I sprinted as fast as I could. When I came around to the other side of the fence, I saw something that almost made me choke in horror. My little brother was being dragged down the alleyway by a tall man. I flew into a rage and tears of anger streamed down my face. I ran at him and he must have heard me coming because he turned around and faced me and he dropped my younger brother. The tall man tried to grab me, but I was running at him so fast that when I slammed into him, it knocked him off his feet. He swore and tried to get back up, but I just started stomping on his face. Without stopping to ask questions, I picked my brother up and ran as fast as I could back to our house. By this time, it was pitch black outside and my mother was home. She was frantic with worry, and when she saw the look on our face, she realized that something bad had happened.
Yes.
As I explained, my brother and I started crying, and my mom gave us both the biggest hug ever.
Where
and she
would
cried
you
with
go,
us.
mother?
Eventually,
Where would
the
you
police
leave
were
your
called,
children?
but this guy was never found.
Goodness, why is this man always so creepy?
This story takes me.
So, mga ka-friendship, be careful. Kasi parang sobrang katakot naman kasi kung kapag ganun eh. Like, bro, you better be careful knowing there's like people looking at you again. Like, when, dapat hindi nyo iwanan yung mga kapatid ninyo, lalo na mga maliliit yung kapatid. Huwag nyo naman iwan. What the common sense naman, mga friendship. So, sige po.
Place when I was a junior high school student. One morning during summer vacation, after my father went to work, my mother and I decided to visit my maternal grandmother, who lived in a rural area. Since my grandmother's house was located in the countryside, getting there required making a left turn, then driving for 5 minutes through a narrow, one-car-wide, unpaved road. There were rice fields and forest on the sides of the unpaved road. As soon as we arrived, I greeted my grandmother, then went into my youngest uncle's room.
doing this.
I used to like visiting my grandmother's house because my uncle was a huge gaming fan and his computer was much better than mine at home. So
What
once I
generation is
confirmed
this?
my uncle was at work, I turned on his computer and started playing Doom 3, which used to be the most popular game once upon a time. After playing the game for about an hour or two, my uncle returned from work. Upon his
with I
arrival,
thought he was gonna
my
do
grandmother
something
asked
crazy.
him to take her grocery shopping, since my mother, my aunt, and I were visiting her house.
Okay.
So at about 7 p.m., they all drove to town to do
Wasn't
some
7
grocery
PM, it was
shopping.
like 5 minutes
I was
before
super excited and waved goodbye to them.
7. Excited
Since I
naman.
think it is unnecessary to explain why I was excited, I'll just leave it. After enjoying about 90 minutes of free time, my uncle called. He said he was about to turn left on the road, but one of the front wheels was punctured, and asked me to bring him a new tire which was in the storage shed. As I said before, after making that left turn, it took about 5 minutes to drive through a narrow, unpaved single-lane road to see my grandmother's house.
Why
But it
does
took about
every-
20 to 30
every
minutes
single
on
garage
foot.
is very empty. I mean, like,
Now
dark.
that I think about it, it was quite scary to walk on that road,
Every kid are
especially
afraid
at
going to a
night.
garage.
It had
alone.
no streetlights and was surrounded by rice fields and forest. It was almost 9 p.m., and that area got quite dark at about 8 because it was in the
But
country.
Why? Every single
So to
time,
be honest,
5 minutes before.
I was really scared. But not wanting anyone to know I was a coward, I decided to go. I grabbed the tire, left the house, and started walking along the unpaved road. I could see my uncle shining his car's headlights toward me. That said, he was still quite far away from me, and the headlights looked like 2 big yellow dots. I was a bit relieved knowing my uncle and family were on the other end of this road, but the night was dark, which deepened my fear. You know, When you walk in the
Just don't
darkness,
look at it.
your eyes adjust, and you
Oh, yeah.
start to see
True.
unclear shapes. I felt like I could see someone standing in the rice field, and someone sitting down, resting his chin on his hands, and looking at me
But heck
through
no,
the
that's
bushes.
just a rock. Don't
I
think
broke
of
out in a
bushes
cold sweat
as
and
ghosts
held
now.
my legs to keep them from
run.
shaking.
Run.
It felt scarier than being alone on a pitch dark night, and because of the fear and the delusion I had created, I remember feeling really dizzy.
Ang pangit.
After walking for about 20 minutes, I looked towards my uncle's car and realized I was nearly there.
Yes.
Feeling happier,
Yes.
I rolled
Go.
the tire faster.
Run. Just
I
run.
rushed to hand over the tire to him as soon as possible, but saw something in front of me.
It's just your
I wasn't sure what it
imagination.
was because it was still a bit away from me, but it was something dark. Suddenly, I felt strange and slowed down. Since I wanted to
Just
determine
don't-
what it
don't
was
fucking
while
run
still
now.
having some
Fucking
distance,
run.
I strained my head and neck trying to look carefully, but it was too dark.
Why does it look like
Although
a
I was
dog?
scared, I started to walk
human
again,
faced
thinking nothing is going to happen because I have my uncle and family about 300 meters away.
Bro.
But when I got closer to it, I stopped because it became clearly visible. It was an old woman squatting with her mouth open,
She needs
looking at
water.
the rice fields.
Bro, she needs
I
water.
could only see the side of her face, but my whole body shivered because her
Give her
blank
water.
facial expression
She's
with her
dehydrated.
mouth open was now clearly visible in the darkness. Without realizing it, I walked
she's
really
tired from
close to
running.
the old woman. For reasons I don't understand, walking by without saying anything seemed even scarier, so I started talking to her. With a frightened voice, I asked, "Excuse me, what are you doing here at night?"
She ran.
But she did not respond
She had a
and
race.
kept
She needs
looking
water.
at the rice field. On the verge of crying, I shouted, "Excuse me!"
She's
She
deaf.
then looked at me, and I felt my heart
Heck
tightening.
no. Oh, she has
Even though
teeth.
it was dark, I
Some
could
grandmas
clearly
don't have
see
teeth no
she
more.
had permed white hair, and I could only see the white parts of
Kung
her
tumakbo
eyes.
ka pa, kanina pa, hindi ka
The
lang sana
scariest
nakakita ng
thing
ganyan.
were the huge wrinkles and stains covering her face and her wide open mouth.
You're just seeing things.
I felt strange, like I was going crazy while looking at her. I
Oh, look, her
had
eyes
eye
are dark.
contact, but was looking down while she was looking up at me. After a few moments of eye
She doesn't
contact,
look no woman
she
no more.
turned
She
her
looks
body
like
toward me.
Washington.
Oh my gosh, I thought she was sitting down, but realized she had no lower body. She only had a torso and head which was supported from the ground with 2 arms.
Sa Pilipinas, ano
A
na yan
flood
eh.
of thoughts crossed my mind,
Manananggal.
but I remember thinking, there is Satan right in front of me. I felt like she was going to run into me with her 2 arms if I didn't move, so I grabbed the tire in my arms and sprinted with my eyes closed
He
tightly.
can carry it.
Without
He
remembering
can
how long
carry
I'd been running, I suddenly felt relieved. It
Bro,
was
like,
the next morning,
he could-
and I was in my grandmother's room.
He could have carried
When I asked my mother what happened, she said she was waiting for me in the car and saw me sprinting with my head down, holding the tire in my arms, and suddenly fell off the road, causing my family to come out of the car shocked. After listening to my mother, I told her and my other family members what I went through. Thinking I had suffered a heat stroke, that evening my grandmother made me chicken soup. My uncle told me to stop playing horror games and wouldn't let me play Doom 3 anymore. From then on, I could only play a Star Wars racing game while staying at my grandmother's house. I still believe
Oh,
it
heck
was
no.
not a ghost
Oh,
that
heck
I
no.
saw that day. It was
Okay,
just
my
an
shiver
illusion
went up.
caused by my mental weakness.
What the? Bro, I am legit now creeping. I'm creeped out because I am alone in my room and my mom and dad is asleep, so mahingang malalim. Okay, sige lang, okay lang yung mga pressure. Don't go alone at night. Okay? Don't go alone at night. Just don't and pray to God. True haunted house horror story.
About 10 years ago, my 3-year-old son and I moved to a house from our apartment.
Okay.
It was a very old building, and the inside of the house always seemed to be just a little darker and just a little colder than it should have been.
Cool. You have a cat?
Not long after we moved in, a friend of mine came to visit. The whole time we were sitting and talking, she seemed very uncomfortable.
Why?
When I looked at her face, I noticed that something in the other room had caught her attention. Her eyes grew wide and she said, "I have to go." I asked her what was wrong, but she refused to tell me.
A duck?
Her odd reaction was freaking me out, so I kept after her. On her way out the door, she finally blurted out, "This house is haunted." But she wouldn't tell me what it was or what made her think so.
Do you think
To this day, she still refuses to tell me what she
she's
saw.
afraid of ducks?
About a week later,
Oh.
my 3-year-old son casually asked me who the old lady in the bathroom was. One day, I was leaving my house for work,
You know,
and I
old
got to the
houses-
car and I
it's
realized
like
I
old
needed to run
houses.
back in the house to get some.
Houses is
I walked
haunted.
into the house, and as soon as I got inside, this
Ghost-
framed
I
photo
think
on
the
the
ghost
wall
ate
shot
cats.
off the wall. It didn't fall down. It shot horizontally away from the wall, and it landed on a mosaic table with enough force to break some of the tiles off of it. I
think
felt
they hate
like
cats.
whatever was in the house was pissed, and that I came back in after it thought I had left for the day. After living in the house
your
for about
son?
6 months, I noticed a weird square cut into the boards on the deck. There was no handle, but
Where
I
the
was
heck
able
is
to
your
pry
son?
it up. The hole was just big enough to fit through, and there was a ladder going down.
Don't you dare go
For
there
some
alone.
reason, I
Why
went
do you
down
go
and I
there
found myself in what looked like a homemade basement. It was basically just a room dug out of the earth, with no constructed walls or stone supports or anything like that. It was very dark, but I could see something over in the corner.
Like an escape
It was a
room or something.
suspicious looking stone.
And it's a grave.
It looked like one of those old headstones you see in cemeteries.
Every time.
Just then, some insects started jumping on me, so I got out of the basement as fast as I could and never went back. Now this is the part that affected me the most. It's also the reason we left the house. One night I was in bed laying on my stomach just about to fall asleep, and I heard someone walk into my room. The footsteps came from the doorway over to my bed. I didn't realize until later that the fact that I heard the footsteps was weird because the room was carpeted. When the footsteps reached my bed, I felt someone put their hands on my back. 2 hands, just gently laid flat on my back and kept me there. I assumed it was my son. "What are you doing?" I asked, but there was no answer. I looked up. No one was there. I got up and checked my son's bedroom, and he was in bed fast asleep.
And smiling.
We moved out soon after that,
Yes.
and we never looked
Look
back.
at that. Look at that house. Look at that house. Oh, look. Bro, look at that house. It has no trees. There is trees, but there's no leaves. Who would live in a place that is red-topped and scary atmosphere? Like, bro, what the heck? I wouldn't even live in that kind of house, like knowing there's no life in it. Like, but anyway, mga ka-friendship, I think that would be all, cause that was around 19 minutes already, and every single thing is a true story. So that's all for now. And if you do like more of these kind of videos and reaction videos, please do comment down below what kind of should I react to. And yeah, that would be all, friendships, and I hope to see you soon in my next story time. So see you soon, mga friendships. Bye!